Welcome back to this week's edition of Church Chat. We conclude our series on pivotal moments in the Old Testament. Last week, if you were with us and watched the video, we were in 2 Kings, and King Zedekiah was on the throne. He'd actually been placed there by the Babylonians, but he rebelled. And so Nebuchadnezzar came and laid siege to Jerusalem after he had destroyed some of the surrounding fortified cities and breached the walls after 18 months long siege. The people were starving inside. They finally made it through the walls and took over Jerusalem, destroyed the temple, took all the gold and silver items back to Babylon, and carried Zedekiah into exile, along with many of the priests and the best and the brightest and the wealthiest and the educated. Took them back to Babylon, and there they were allowed to create little enclaves where they maintained their culture and faith while they wrestled with the question of why God had allowed Jerusalem to be destroyed. They still maintained many of their customs, and in fact it was an opportunity where to secure their traditions and their faith, they brought together writings, they standardized traditions, and so they tried to find what was the essence of Judaism and preserve that. So for 70 years, more or less, most of the prominent people of Judaism were in Babylon, and they longed to go back, or many of them did. There was a remnant of people back in and around Jerusalem. They subsisted on farming. Much of the commerce and the trade was destroyed because not only Jerusalem but the surrounding cities had been laid waste. And so the poor people had a hard time making a living. Some of them went to Egypt. Some of them went to other places in hopes of a better life. So the attack of the Babylonians just decimated that whole area. So that was the situation. And so our next pivotal moment is when Cyrus, the king of Persia, comes and he takes over Babylon, takes over the whole region, and he allows the Jews who want to return. And more than that, he also helps finance rebuilding the temple, rebuilding the walls, and reestablishing Jerusalem as an important city in that part of the world. And so the Jews who were allowed to return were grateful, ecstatic over this change, and they began to pull together. Some of the ones who didn't go made donations of cattle, goats, sheep. They made donations of what gold and silver they had, all in order for the temple to be rebuilt. The original temple was magnificent and incredible, that they had expended a large amount of the resources of the kingdom to create. The one that was built after that was not as grand, not as elaborate, but still it served as the center of Jewish life until King Herod came along several centuries later, and he added on to the temple, made it more exquisite, and that is the temple that Jesus knew. So this transition is back to that first rebuilding. And we have had so many pivotal moments that we are in the final book of Robert Alter's Hebrew Bible. And this section of their Bible is called the Writings. and that includes Ezra. In our Bible, Ezra comes right after 2 Kings, Chronicles, but tells the story. In their Bible, Ezra is later, comes later in their collection. So this is chapter 1, and I'll read down to verse 7 of the book of Ezra. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, as the word of the Lord by Jeremiah had come to fulfillment, the Lord roused the spirit of Cyrus, king of Persia, and he sent forth a proclamation through all his kingdom, and in a writ as well, saying, Thus said Cyrus, king of Persia, all the kingdoms of earth has the Lord God of Israel given to me, and he has ordered me to build him a house in Jerusalem, which is in Judah. And whoever among you of all his people, may his God be with him. Let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and build the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem, and whoever remains in all the places where they sojourn, let the people of his place support him with silver and with gold and with the goods and with beasts, together with the free will offerings for the house of the God who is in Jerusalem. And the patriarchal chiefs of Judah and Benjamin and all the priests and the Levites arose, all whose spirit God had roused up to go build the house of the Lord that is in Jerusalem. And all those around them strengthened their hands with silver vessels and with gold and with goods and with beasts and with delicacies, besides all the free will offerings. And King Cyrus had taken the vessels of the house of the Lord that Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of Jerusalem and put them in the house of his God. So all of them, whether they returned to Jerusalem or not, added to the effort to rebuild the temple. And if you look further into Ezra, it even lists those that returned, and it lists what they gave as a record of this time of renewal, this pivotal moment. And so thanks to Cyrus and his generosity, they were able to return to Jerusalem. Because of Cyrus' role in this, some of the Jews even believed that he was the Messiah. That's how big a change it was. So the Jews are, from that time, still dependent on the greater powers, the larger nations of the day, but they have some level of autonomy until the Greeks come along, Alexander the Great, and the generals that follow him. The Greeks try to take them over. They rebel. The Romans come along. They control the area. The Jews rebel again, and that's sort of a cycle until the Romans get so fed up that they finally destroy the temple and Jerusalem again in 70 AD and drive all the Jews out of the region. So that concludes our pivotal moments of the Old Testament. Next week, we will be transitioning to using our devotion guides, and Lynn and Randy will be back with us, and we'll be looking at those Lenten devotions. You're welcome to follow along. I hope you will. If you'd like a copy of the book, call us, email us. We'll send those out to you, or you can pick them up at the church. And the topic for our season of Lent is the compassionate Jesus. And we'll look at a whole number of ways that Jesus and the New Testament Christians tried to help those who were in need, and how that transformed the way that they lived their faith, and how it caused others to want to be part of the Christian movement. So, compassionate Jesus, Lent begins next week. and hope that you are staying safe and warm. God bless.